Thank you all for joining us for this really exciting speaker series featuring Senator Lena Gonzalez. I'm going to read her bio, and I've edited just a little bit, but I think it's really important that we hear all of the things that she's involved in and that she has done. So I know she's probably not going to be happy that I'm going to read the majority of her bio, but she really does epitomize a lot of the values and the work that AAUW currently, has as priorities. So Senator Lena Gonzalez was elected to the state Senate to represent the 33rd District in June of 2019. Growing up in a working class family where her father was a truck driver and her mother worked in aerospace, Senator Gonzalez learned the value of hard work and dedication. Prior to being elected to the Senate, Gonzalez served on the Long Beach City Council from 2014 to 2019. Gonzalez also worked in the private sector for Microsoft, leading civic engagement investments for the Los Angeles region. Her focus was on expanding diversity and inclusion in the tech sector by providing grants to nonprofit organizations and digital skills programs for underserved communities, to include unemployed adults seeking job training and creating career pathways for youth, especially supporting young girls of color in STEM. In the Senate, Gonzalez prioritized creating economic opportunity for all families and children in SD 33. Gonzalez wants to create jobs, promote quality education, address the crisis in affordable housing and homelessness, protect our environment, and attract innovation to the district. Senator Gonzalez sits on the Senate Health Committee, Senate Judiciary Committee, Senate Transportation Committee, and the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. She is the chair of the Senate Select Committee on Ports and Goods Movement, and most recently has become the chair of the Special Committee on Pandemic Emergency Response. Senator Gonzalez lives in Long Beach with her husband, Adam, and their three sons, Zarian, Ethan, and Luca. Gonzalez graduated with her BA in Political Science from California State University, Long Beach, and MBA from Loyola Marymount University. So it's very impressive. One story that I do have to tell, just because the senator and I are longtime friends. I was having an event on a Monday that she did not miss because she was speaking to people supporting me, and so she attended an event on a Monday. On Tuesday, she attended her city council meeting and left early so that she could go to the hospital and bring Luca into the world. Like, she worked right up until the very last minute. So this woman is tough. She is committed. She is an inspiration to many of us. So please welcome Senator Lena Gonzalez.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much, Herlinda, and soon to be trustee, I hope, and we're crossing our fingers for you. Very excited. I also see Virginia Baxter here, Ginny Baxter, trustee. And
hi, Lena.
Hi, how are you?
I'm just fine, thank you.
Oh, good. And Megan Kerr, our amazing school board member, and a lot of amazing friends that have been here and new faces that I hope to continue making relationships with in various sectors. So it's so great to spend time with some amazing women, especially on this historic day. And whether you supported Joe Biden or Donald Trump, I just have to say that today is a historic moment for women to have a presence in the White House, especially a woman from California, which is pretty cool. So for me, I'm a little biased in that, but nonetheless, very, very happy to be here. Well, it's also been, a pleasure to just, be around a lot of women, especially because I'm a mom to 3 boys. So I've got a husband and 3 boys. And so this is the reason why I always say yes to women's events. But Herlinda, I don't know if you wanted to start off with any other questions, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And then also to acknowledge your Senate colleague who was elected to the Board of Supervisors, making it all-woman Board of Supervisors. So we're very excited to have her at the county as well.
Very exciting.
So, we want to talk about your role in the work that you do at the state Senate. we're in this pandemic and have been for a long time. We're all trying to adjust. Can you talk a little bit and explain the pandemic committee that you chair, who created it, why it was created, and what you do?
Absolutely. And so again, as Herlinda mentioned, I was just elected last year in 2019. So when the pandemic hit in March, of course, the executive order hit from Governor Newsom. The legislature had to go back off of out of session, and we were in recess essentially. But during that time, the pro tem Tony Atkins, who is an incredible president pro tem, decided that the Senate needed to have some actions even in this time of recess. We were all back home in our districts. And so we were able to, she was able to appoint us to the Pandemic Emergency Response Committee, which was in May. And in May, we had 11 members that were appointed. It's a bipartisan committee. So you've got Republicans and Democrats together, ensuring that we're addressing the needs of our California constituents. Do you want me to pause for a moment? Sorry.
I'm trying to find out who that is because looks like everybody's muted.
No problem.
So sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm going to mute everybody.
It's a big day today.
It is. I think everybody's multitasking. So it looks like I think I have everyone muted. And if we can stay muted, also, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'd be happy to ask the senator on your behalf. So it looks like we're all muted now. Senator, I apologize. Please continue.
No problem. No problem. It's a big day today. So I just wanted to say, the Pandemic Emergency Response Committee was put forth by the pro tem Senator Tony Atkins from San Diego. She had the foresight to say, we need this committee while we're in recess and in our districts to be able to have oversight over Governor Newsom's executive orders. Although we appreciated his executive orders, we wanted to make sure that we were in collaboration with him, ensuring that we were responding to the needs of every Californian. The pandemic committee, as mentioned, is bipartisan. So you have Republicans, Democrats from all up and down the state, 11 members. I am the chair. My co-chair is Senator Pat Bates from Orange County. And so together we work in conjunction to, again, address the needs of Californians. The issues that have been brought up are very righteous issues. The very first issue we brought up, of course, was right in the middle of May when we didn't know what the heck was happening. Testing, contact tracing, ensuring that we had a robust test lab result plan, which at that point we did not. So we were getting information from academics and from epidemiologists up and down the state to really figure out where we were at in the very beginning of this COVID-19 crisis, which was in May. And then we talked about the next hearing we had was on skilled nursing facilities, because we knew, especially here in in LA County, we knew that those were the areas that had hotspots and outbreaks, both on the residents, but also for the employees that worked there. So we needed a strategy and plan for that. Then the next one was on the border region. We realized that some places like Imperial County did not have the healthcare infrastructure. We're really lucky here in Long Beach where we have our own health department and we have the health structure. We have a county to supplement that as well with a very strong health infrastructure. And then we went on to discuss issues such as the digital divide, which we did about 2 weeks ago, because we knew broadband access was an issue before COVID hit. And then it only was exacerbated with the COVID-19 crisis. And this just wasn't for K through 12, but also understanding that seniors need a good broadband service and reliable broadband service for telehealth services as well. Because we know that has been up on the rise. And we've discussed so many other issues, especially the issues of this essential workers, which I would love to talk about, which affect primarily women. And that's an issue that I think we can certainly talk about. The next one we will have is in a couple weeks, and that will be an oversight hearing, which is about congregate facilities, specifically our prison system, as we've seen an increase and an uptick in San Quentin and various other areas. So we're working hard. We've had 6 meetings so far and it keeps going.
Great, thank you so much. And you touched on it a little bit. There were questions that we've had from the members about the digital divide. So we'll talk about that next. But I think let's talk about the impacts COVID-19 has had specifically on women and girls locally and throughout the state.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that I'm speaking with AAUW, especially on your centennial, as this is a centennial for women's, the right to vote. So many different incredible things that women have done, but yet we are unfortunately moving a little bit backwards with COVID-19. And so there are things that we can do. So I'm going to offer up the problems, but I don't offer up problems without looking at solutions as well. And I'd love to encourage all of you to provide more solutions and ideas for us in the state legislature as well to work with you. I have learned that in every major recession that we've had, especially the most recent one in 2009, 2010, the foreclosure recession, that men lost more jobs. But we're realizing with this COVID pandemic induced recession that women are losing more jobs. And the reason being is, of course, the stay-at-home orders that we know in the state of California. And depending on where you're at in the region, like in Los Angeles, we're still in the purple tier, which means we're in the second highest restrictive tier. Kids still can't go back to school. So who ends up staying home with the children? It's women most often. And so women have had to decide whether they're gonna reduce their hours or completely quit their jobs. And then they don't realize what they're gonna do afterwards. So women are unfortunately bearing the brunt of this COVID-19 and having to figure out difficult choices about their job choices currently, but also aftermath. What's going to happen after the pandemic? What am I going to do if I lose my job and then I'm out for a year or 2 years? In addition, many of the minimum wage jobs, retail, hospitality are the ones that have been impacted the most for obvious reasons. And those are the jobs that most women are consuming. And so we know that 2/3 of minimum wage jobs are actually women that are holding those jobs. There's less remote options for us. I know when I used to work at Microsoft, there's very few women in technology. And so when I was at Microsoft, now they're all remote. They have those options, but very few women have those options if you're working at a hotel or if you're a janitor at a school or if you're a teacher. There's sometimes very few remote options. And it also exacerbates, unfortunately, as we know in AAUW, you know this the best, is the gender pay gap. We know that 70, 80 cents to a dollar white women are making, 60 cents Black women are making to that dollar, and 40 cents or so Latina women are making to that dollar. But with this COVID-19 crisis being on unemployment or potentially not having a job, or if you're undocumented, that further exacerbates your minimum wage gap and also the realization of, again, what you're going to do after the fact. But we know through the Cal Budget Center that primarily out of all women, Black and Latino women are the women that are losing jobs faster at a faster rate at 22 to 23%. And again, I said, if you're undocumented, we know that women do not have a safety net. The state of California has not provided a net of you don't qualify for unemployment. And you don't have another safety net to really fall back on being a woman, a working woman that may not be documented. So with all that, I'll move on to some support sort of legislation that has happened and also some ideas looking forward, but I don't know if there's any questions. I want to stop there. I know I've talked a lot.
No, I think we'll stay on the topic, and I don't see any questions related specifically to this topic. We will add some of the questions that we are getting in the chat, though.
Absolutely.
So you're going to offer solutions? Is that what you were going to do?
Yes. Well, I'll talk about a little bit what the California legislature has done, especially the Women's Caucus. I am so proud to be part of the Women's Caucus. There are 39 women currently in office in the California legislature, which is a historic number. I think when I got in office, it hit us to that historic number. And then we had one more woman, a Republican woman, got us to 39. And then with new women coming in, I assume, depending on where the elections lie, we may have 40 plus women in the California legislature, which is still very small compared to the fact that we have 120 legislators, 40 senators and 80 assembly members. So we still have a lot more work to do to ensure women are represented in these areas of these positions of power. But the California legislature led by the Women's Caucus, we pushed for paid leave, paid family leave, which to me seems interesting because it could be paid or unpaid up to 12 days. We know that in some workplaces, employers are not offering leave. So you, in this COVID-19 crisis, you may be a caregiver, and we know oftentimes women are caregivers, or you may have had a baby and want to take some leave. And there are places where, and we've heard workplaces where women have had to go back to work a day or two after they've given birth. And that's just not fair. Or if you're caring for a loved one because they have COVID-19, or you yourself have COVID-19, there needs to be some protection. So the Women's Caucus pushed, and we, with the governor signing this, we got 12 days of paid or unpaid leave that you can take, especially during this crisis. We also pushed for an item that's still being litigated right now and looked at, but women on corporate boards, and ensuring that businesses are pushing to have more women in these corporate board spaces, because we know when women are at corporate boards, the companies hire more women, companies have more emphasis on women within their marketing and all of that. But I also think it's important looking ahead in 2021 that we continue supporting businesses, small and large, for the ones that are moving to remote work options and providing options, especially for women, to work remote. Workplace protections for low-wage workers, especially as we've seen garment factories in the Southeast that I represent. A lot of the garment factories, believe it or not, have workplace protections like cardboard with holes poked in them. And I think it's essential, and that's what they say is okay. The workplace thinks it's okay for a cardboard, to be dividing two women that are working close together and sewing, pieces together for our incredible apparel industry, but it's really not fair. These women need workplace protections, and that's in our garment factories, our farms, and also our childcare facilities, because we know more women need childcare, but we also need to support the childcare workers, the ones that need the personal protective equipment, and they need more resources from the state to be able to provide them with an opportunity to continue work and to continue supporting those essential workers that need their services. Vocational programs, I might know a couple community college trustees on this call that can work with me on vocational programs targeted towards women, because we know, again, women are the ones that are more likely to be unemployed, more likely to not have a game plan after COVID-19 when they want to go back to work. And we need to focus specifically on women to ensure that they have support at the community college level and at the Cal State level as well. And K through 12 curriculum for young girls. This is exactly what I did at Microsoft, is STEM programming, coding. We want to see young girls in places where more men are present, coding in our next engineers, because those are the places that if another pandemic should hit, those are the young women that will have remote options. And we want that to happen. We want them to start off at very high pay and have it present, be present in these spaces. And again, support for early child care workers, and just uplifting the voice of women, especially women of color during this time. I think we all can agree that women's voices need to be loud and clear, especially after this election, but especially during this crisis where we're being impacted the most. So with that, I will stop there. And again, if there's any questions or ideas, happy to hear them.
Great. Let's talk about the digital divide a little bit. You touched on that. I think many of us saw the picture of the little girls outside Taco Bell sitting on the floor trying to do their homework. I know that Long Beach City College recently did a study, a poll, and about 25% of their students are using handheld devices to complete their assignments. We've known that the digital divide exists. You have been a champion since your days on the city council and the work that you did here locally. How do we fix that? And because it's a huge undertaking, right? We're talking about redoing infrastructure, investing in this entire new infrastructure. So what is the state legislature doing? Actually, there was a member who also specifically asked, since SB 1130 was killed by the assembly, will you propose a similar bill that will expand broadband access and close the digital divide. And if you have like an idea of the timeline, like what does that realistically look like for us to close that digital divide?
It's a great question, and thank you so much. I have been on this issue since I was on the Long Beach City Council. I championed the Digital Inclusion Roadmap, which is actually still going live and well in Long Beach. And I'm so glad for that because it happened before COVID. And then again, I created this bill in February, right before COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, it only exacerbated the issue of digital divide. And again, for K through 12, higher education, small businesses, families that are going to start using telehealth a bit more. And now as we're expanding telehealth to be reimbursed by insurance companies, we need fast, reliable internet. And what I've always said too is we cannot call ourselves the fifth largest economy in this country, in the country and in the world, really, if we don't tackle this issue of the digital divide. There should be no reason that kids are utilizing Taco Bell or the Starbucks to be able to get onto the internet. So yes, the short answer is absolutely. We are working very hard to build a stronger coalition of Republicans and Democrats and everyone, because this is really a bipartisan issue. Everyone is impacted. It doesn't matter where you're at in the state. You can be in rural California, or you can be in urban South Los Angeles or Long Beach, where I represent, and you're still either not connected because internet service providers have not invested in your area, or B, if you are connected, you have very slow speeds. And that's not right either, because we know right now with all of us being on a Zoom in a household, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 of us, we need to ensure that we get high speeds, regardless of your zip code or your income. And so my bill, what it looks at is, I'll kind of give you a short synopsis. It looks at the California Services Fund. It's a fund that has about $250 million in it. It's what you currently pay on your cell phone bill. You pay a small percentage into that fund, and we've accumulated over a few years about $250 million. Those dollars are supposed to be used towards broadband infrastructure. And what my bill said is we need to increase the technology standards and say that infrastructure should be fiber, which costs a little bit more but lasts a lot longer, so you get a better return on investment, and also higher speeds. But the bill also allows local governments like our school districts, our community colleges, and our cities to be able to apply for the funds as well, to create, in essence, their own broadband if they want, and to also compete with internet service providers to lower the costs for residents. And so I think that this is a good plan. We've had a lot of support from rural communities and urban communities up and down the state. But we need to just continue pressing on for more work. And I'd love to engage AAUW if you'd love to do that with me to make sure that we make this right for 2021. We have to get this passed.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I know that we're always looking for opportunities to get more involved in policy. In fact, the AAUW California encourages us to get involved to support legislation that falls in line with our priorities. So yes, we should definitely be connecting on that. Denise Montoya asks if there is any action being taken to increase protections for female farm workers who are subjected to sexual harassment and sexual assault. They are sometimes more vulnerable due to young ages and without families where they work. That's per United Farm Workers mailing that you received. So if you can speak a little bit about that.
Sure. Thank you, Denise, so much for this question. You know, I come from urban California. So being a senator now, I've been privy to all of the issues that the state of California is being affected by, and especially as it pertains to COVID-19. So I think your issue on the sexual assault issue is very, very important. I know that many of my colleagues, like Robert Rivas, has been focused on the farm worker issue, not just on COVID, but also sexual assaults. And so I know with that work, the governor implemented, I think, a plan of about $150 million or so to work on just getting education out for farm workers on what their rights were, giving them resources. I know some of that included issues of assault. And so I know that there's more work to be done on that, but there was some investments being made, especially for the Central Valley farm worker area. But the issue of sexual assault, I think, is important, not just for the farm worker industry, but I know for hotel workers is something that I've worked on in the city council. Our garment factory workers, most often they're undocumented, most often they're monolingual Spanish or Khmer or Chinese speakers, and they need support and they don't know where to go. And so a lot of the support has been just educating them and ensuring that the state legislature continues to focus their attention on these low wage workers that need support in other ways. So thanks again, Denise, for your question, and we'll continue pressing on.
So as you can imagine, AAUW has a lot of faculty, teachers. I mean, we have these amazing women that are in the classroom. So there's a couple of questions. So Shelley Arnold says that she uses code.org to help teach coding. The digital divide is a huge issue. Can internet access become free and statewide? And along the same lines, Francis Rosner asks, can internet ever be considered an essential utility, and what advantage would that have for the public?
Thanks again for those questions, because I completely and wholeheartedly agree. I think internet and broadband service should be a utility. I just had a webinar 2 weeks ago with former FCC chairman under the Obama administration, Tom Wheeler, who agreed with me. He also is somebody who's been fighting to increase the speeds, but also to ensure that we know that broadband should be an essential service. We shouldn't look at it as an extra or a luxury. I mean, this is something that allows kids and teachers to tap into this universe that is just unlimited. And so we shouldn't, have an opportunity here in California where we have the have and have nots. And that just furthers the achievement gap. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. So I believe at the federal level, with this new administration, we'll see with the Biden administration what that could look like and who they put in place for their technology guru, who that person would be, because I believe the number is about $100 billion is what it would take to create a public utility at the federal level. Right now, California, again, has a California Services Fund, and we normally rely a lot on the federal government to leverage funds for our rural communities, but they're mostly just grants. And so we have to kind of pick and choose and piecemeal our broadband infrastructure. So yes, the hope is that we can get there. We'll see what the administration does. I'm happy to continue focusing my effort, not just in California, but really working with those congressional members on these key committees too, both Republican and Democrat, who really want to tackle this digital divide. And so I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully for many of you teachers that are doing the really, really incredible work every day. Thank you.
So thank you for that. You had mentioned that you all are trying to look at corporate America and maybe the contracts or the corporations that the state of California does business with, and if there are women that are on the executive board and really empowering women. You talked about not having enough women at the state legislature. In this last election cycle, I think you only endorsed women who were running for elected office, which was pretty impressive. How do you continue to encourage women to run for office? I think we've all kind of seen that sometimes, women can be a little hesitant. We multitask. We have a lot on our plate. And it's tough. Women are targeted a lot differently. So how do you personally encourage women to get involved in leadership positions and run for office so that we can change those numbers at the state legislature and locally?
Yeah, I think I made a decision I felt that this year was the year of the woman, no matter what. And I think that, again, we need to see more women in office. We have a different lens that we look through, whether you're a grandmother, an auntie, whether you're a mother, you just have this different lens that you look through. And so I personally believe women do such a great job. And the women that I supported were all super qualified. I didn't just choose them because they were women and they ticked a box for me. They're super qualified. They were community leaders. And that's what my personal position was. But I think whether it's running for office or being on a board or commission or just being in this group, AAUW, I think it's really important that women have an opportunity in various ways, bipartisanship, to just come together as women, to talk about your kids, to talk about your lives, to talk about your professional experiences and the good, the bad, the ugly. It allows us to just flourish. And I think having these opportunities is really an amazing way. Amazing way for us to move ahead. I will continue being, a strong supporter of women again, and especially not just women again in elected office, but women that are directors, women in our, we have our first, we have a woman superintendent at Long Beach Unified School District. We have a woman superintendent at Long Beach City College and at Cal State Long Beach. I mean, I think it's pretty amazing that women are inching their way and making really good headway in various spaces of education and all of this. So just know that I'm going to continue to be a supporter. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. I think sometimes that divide often separates us, but we often have so many more similarities than we have differences. Coming from somebody who married somebody on the other aisle. so I think that we can make this happen. And again, women have a lot more in common than we realize.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And you're doing a great job of encouraging women to get into leadership roles. Like you said, not just elected office, but commissioners and board and directors and promoting, and you're doing a wonderful job. So thank you for that. Charlotte has a question. She wants to know if there is a discussion that the state legislators are having I guess as an action plan, and I don't know if this is something that would take place at the state, but if Trump does not give a concession speech, so if there's not a change in administration, I guess, if there's not a peaceful transfer of power, do you know if the state of California is going to take a position or get involved in any way if they can?
That's a good question. I have not yet. Usually the Senate Democratic Caucus, to which I'm, of course, a member, we usually have a debriefing after every election. We had one after these big elections on Tuesday. And so Wednesday we had a debrief. I'm sure we'll have one on Monday. So maybe there'll be more information there. I don't know that we do anything per se, but there may be, I'm hearing that there's a lot of on the campaign side that may get involved with that. Other than just voicing our opinions on a peaceful transition of power and ensuring that, at the end of the day, Americans just want to be represented. Californians just want to be represented. And so I think hopefully we can get to that point. So fingers crossed that it is peaceful and in transition and we can get to that place of solidarity together.
Perfect. Thank you. And Carolyn asks that, this California election included a number of criminal justice efforts. Can you talk a little bit about that and your work there?
Absolutely. And many of them I was very proud to co-author. Many of them were led by the distinguished, my colleagues in the California Black Legislative Caucus. And I was really proud to support them, especially as we've seen a lot of the racial injustice occur that I don't think any of us will really understand. I'm not a Black American, but I feel for my colleagues and my neighbors who are and who've dealt with these issues. And so some of them, and what's nice for being from Long Beach is when you're coming from a big city, oftentimes you get the work done before the state legislature acts, which is really even better. And so I think the city put forward the carotid, they did away with the carotid hold, which was the hold that George Floyd unfortunately died by. And so that was put forward, which was great, by the city of Long Beach. The California Legislative Black Caucus put that forward and it did pass. There's a number of criminal justice reforms that did not pass, unfortunately, one of which was ensuring that there was no usage of tear gas and rubber bullets during peaceful protests. That's something that I co-authored and I was prepared on the Senate to present, but unfortunately did not make it out. There's a number of others relative to decertifying police. This is a very important one, which I think will come back. And actually, our Long Beach police officers agreed with it, which I think was so easy to get passed. But unfortunately, the legislature, for whatever reason, on the assembly side, did not move it forward. But it was to decertify bad police officers. So if you're a bad police officer and you have a number of violations, just like in any profession, you should be decertified. And there was another caveat to that talked about qualified immunity. I think a lot of people were having trouble with that. But the decertification, we're only one of 5 states that don't have that, which is interesting, that California does not have a process for police officers to decertify if they have a number of violations. So hopefully that will get done next year, and we'll continue, working on a number of other issues. I know another big one is ensuring that there is reform for youth juveniles, lowering sentence enhancements, because we know youth, need second chances. Our city prosecutor, Doug Halbert, has been incredible with youth justice and diversion programs. So again, I feel like I go to Sacramento and a lot of the work's already been done in Long Beach, which is pretty awesome. And all I have to do is say, hey, Long Beach did it, let's do it in Sacramento, and see where it goes from there. But I'm really proud of our city in that regard.
Wonderful. We're going to go back to COVID a little bit. I have another question about rent relief, and rent relief is really important for renters. But Alice has an acquaintance, and there's a cat that wants to get on here, and no, you can't do it. She has an acquaintance who is the landlord and has not received payments for the last 7 months. And, he's looking at losing his livelihood and the business that he built. So what at the state are you all doing to support small businesses?
Absolutely. And this is where, again, we've had to learn a lot through this California legislature. This is unprecedented. We didn't have a manual that said this is what you do in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. So there were a number of rent relief and also homeowner relief bills that went through. But ultimately, what we ended up with was the Renter and Landlord Homeowner Stabilization Act, which the governor did sign. And it's essentially a 2-for-1, looking at them cohesively, because this is the whole economic cycle. If a renter isn't paying a landlord, the landlord can't make mortgage. The mortgage is not, going to be defaulted, unfortunately. So this basically said that from anyone from March, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, through January 2021, next year, if you lost your job, what have you, because of COVID, the renter can show proof of that to the landlord. You have an ability to not pay a certain percentage of your rent, but you have to pay, I believe, 25%. You have to at least make payments. And what a lot of landlords are doing, and I don't know if in this case, if the landlord did this, but a lot of landlords, even before this act passed, were trying to provide repayment programs, because you need to pay at least something. I know it's hard and maybe you can't, but you need to try and prove that you can, or at least pay something. So this is what the bill said, is at least pay 25% of that. And then after 2021, we'll reevaluate. I think the legislature will look to see if we can expand that. And it's only because of the fact that we're really looking at whether the federal government, with, of course, this new administration, is going to come in with additional CARES Act relief funds, which could either A, be directed directly towards people, like your stimulus checks, maybe it'd be $2,000 or so, or towards cities for rent relief, mortgage relief payments. And so that's what we're looking at. The act also said that as a landlord, you also have an ability to have forbearance up to that year for your payments. But again, California, the issue with that is that most folks, landlords, have federally backed mortgages. So this is where we had to work with the federal government to ensure that we still had forbearance for those folks. But anything that is state, you have a state bank, then you do have up to that year to forbear your payments. So a lot of different nuances. We're happy to send the details, because I know this is a lot of information, but it gives some sort of safety net for renters and homeowners while we work through this new administration to see what stimulus and CARES Act funding will look like in 2021.
So to expand on that, Shelley is asking if the legislature is going to work with the banks to extend mortgages without penalties and not foreclose on landlords.
Yes, and thank you so much for that question. That is a critical question. We have been working with the banks. I know my colleagues, Assembly Member David Chu, and now Senator Monique Limon has been working on this issue. I've also worked with many of our local credit unions, like Long Beach City Federal Credit Union, Long Beach LBSU, LBSU, I believe, to ensure that they know that this is so important for us, that they work to relieve some of these penalties. And most of them have, but it's just been really difficult, as you know. So we've really had to have ongoing conversations, but we are definitely in conversations with our state banks, our community banks, and then also banks at the federal level as well, just to see what they can offer our residents. Great question.
So I want to be respectful of the time, and we have about 15 minutes left. So I think we'll start to wrap it up on a very broad topic, but one that we could talk for hours on, and that's the issue of homelessness. So what is the state doing? What are you doing here locally? Are there any policies that you're advocating for? Just talk a little bit about the state of homelessness.
Absolutely. I think this is an issue, again, before COVID hit, we had this on our minds. The rates have gone up. We know that we've seen, it doesn't matter where you're at in the city. I now live on the east side. I was in downtown. I still see people who are experiencing homelessness every single day, and it's sad. A lot of different nuances to it. What I think that the state will continue to do, and the governor has been loud and clear on this, is ensuring that we, of course, provide more resources to our local governments. We are now, unfortunately, in a big deficit, $50 billion plus. But regardless of that, we have an amazing partner in the county that has really been doing this work to ensure that there's been Project Room Key, to allow people who are experiencing homelessness a place to stay. It's sort of a temporary fix, but it is something in the meantime while we're dealing with bad weather and COVID-19. I think we're going to approve one in Central Long Beach here shortly. And so Project Room Key has really been an opportunity, and we have seen a good, positive direction with that. It's also been looking at the issue of housing in general. Again, these renter protections, I think people often think you're just trying to, fix the situation by not, allowing renters to pay their rent. That's not the case at all. It's really more of an issue of housing stability. The more we don't focus on renter protections, the more likely we are to have more people in the mix who would be experiencing homelessness, which is what we don't need. So it's on a different level. Another thing that the Senate has been doing that I've been working on is a working group on affordable housing. And so we initiated 4 bills, again, lots of different nuances to them, but the bills would create laws for our accessory dwelling units, to ensure that if you are a property owner that wants to create an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, if it's, of course, with local components to it, the local government still has to vet it through its process, that you have an ability to do that. And there are incentives in some places like the city of Los Angeles that are giving incentives to property owners who are working with organizations that will help house people who are homeless. So that, also converting some of our old commercial buildings, like Lakewood Town Center, I know is one opportunity that I know the city of Lakewood has been looking at, in creating housing, but creating housing that is affordable, like very low and mid affordable, that people and family can live in, and potentially working with organizations that work with people who are homeless. So there's a lot of different, work on the affordable side, existing hotels, again, on Project Room Key, and then looking ahead at creating a more robust homeless program within the California legislature through the governor. I know that Luz Rivas, assembly member, she had a plan to create like a whole new office of homelessness. It was vetoed, unfortunately, had needed more details, but she was really focusing on children that are homeless. And I think, again, you'll start to see more in the legislature with more pockets of different types of demographics of homelessness. So children will be focused on. I know there's going to be some bills on women who are homeless. And so there's just a lot of different work that's being done on this. But I can't say enough how wonderful our partners in the county have been, as well as, again, being from Long Beach, we're very lucky to have our own health department who has really been focused on this. I know sometimes it doesn't look like it, but truly they have been really focused on the issue of homelessness and getting it right. But again, happy to hear any other questions or ideas on what we can do better.
That's so great. So Carol says, while respecting the rights of the unhoused, can anything be done to expand the ability to place individuals on holds for their own protection and that of others? And I think that there's conversations that are taking place around that. So I don't know if you have any information about what the state is looking at, Senator?
Absolutely. Being in this has come to the health committee a number of times, I think a couple times since I've been there, the conservatorship, the issue of conservatorship, the issue that I think is very valiant and we need to certainly look at a little bit more and broader, because there's again, different nuances to it. When you have a conservator, when you get to that conservatorship, is that person really going to have the best interests of that person, which I know has been brought up before? What threshold do we get to actually put someone into a conservatorship? We've known that people who have maybe had some really bad substance abuse issues, very bad mental health issues, are on our streets right now. And it's hard because we don't, as police officers, as mental health and social workers, there's only so much they can do. And so we're really trying to figure out what that magic formula is in order to get people to a conservatorship. And if that is the right place, that we're doing so in the best interest of that person and of the greater community. So still having conversations about that. I suspect that we'll see more bills on that next year, and would love to, again, engage each and every one of you, because I know we've heard this issue quite a bit. And I know the county is looking at this as well. But yeah, absolutely on our radar.
Wonderful. So I think everybody here is just so grateful that you were able to take the time on a Saturday to join us and talk to us about the important role that you hold at the state Senate. As our local Long Beach representative, we're really happy that you're out there advocating for us. So if you'd like to, maybe share some of the things that you want to do, any additional information you'd like us to know, how we can participate and support what you all are doing, we'd love to hear that. Some final thoughts.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to just hang out with you. I know there's been a lot going on this week. And again, if you get me away from my boys for a few minutes, I'm really, really happy. So aside from that, though, in all seriousness, being your senator has been a real pleasure. And it's been a real honor. And I take it very seriously, especially leading the COVID-19 crisis. I don't know why the pro tem decided to pick a freshman senator to do that, but I'm just real honored to be able to represent you in Sacramento on all of these issues. What we'll continue to work on, of course, is looking at anytime we look at policy, we look at policy in the lens of the district. I always have to say, if I'm legislating in Sacramento, how the heck am I going to explain this best to all of the residents that I represent, whether you voted for me or not, right? And whether you're Republican, Democrat, nonpartisan, it doesn't matter to us. We want to ensure we are serving you. So just know that my office is open. We have helped an unprecedented amount of small businesses with support, as well as unemployed Californians with EDD, social services, whatever it might be. Even if it's not at our level, we will get you those resources. So I want to say that first. Again, the digital divide will be really important for us. We'll continue those efforts. We are going to do some work in the space of small businesses that have been affected. There's small businesses that have also innovated for us. So on the silver lining side of the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that there are so many small businesses that have really been pushed to a place of great innovation, and how can we as a state support them with incentives. So we're going to be looking at that. One issue that has been, of course, really important is education, and how do we reopen safely? How do we do so that kids can get back to school, teachers can feel confident in the classroom, or as they're distance learning, how do we support our educational system, both at the K through 12, early education, and higher education? We want to make sure we're all set up for success, but we don't want to leave anyone behind: teachers, parents, administrators, no one. And then lastly, what I'll say is mental health. That has been brought up like you wouldn't believe. I knew that this was an issue, but hearing that from children, hearing it from administrators who say that there are kids that have contemplated suicide, for me, is just really difficult as a parent. And so mental health will be at the forefront. I think LA County has done a great job. And so we're going to work with our partners in the county and the city to ensure that there are more resources that expands mental health, especially for people that are low income, like Medi-Cal services, and also for folks that just don't know where to go and navigate through the governmental system for mental health services, especially as we have telehealth. That is a really great opportunity for folks. Aside from that, workplace protections and COVID-19, we're going to be, obviously I'm the chair, so we're going to continue that work to ensure that everyone has testing that is at least 24 to 48 hour turnaround, that we have a robust contact tracing program, and that we ensure that people are protected at their workplace and that they feel safe, ultimately. So with that, I just want to say thank you. My office is always here to serve you.
And your district office is located in Bixby Knolls, so that's always nice to know. We do have a couple minutes. So there was one question that I accidentally skipped, and it's about daylight savings time. And so the state has already changed the way we do business with the 8:30 school start. Can we do it all at once and end daylight savings time?
Oh, good question. I have not been on this issue. This is a great question. I think you stumped me. I know that one of my colleagues before I got into the Senate was working on this, and I'm trying to figure out which one in my head right now, but a great question, because we need to just be consistent. And I think it throws us all off, right? Especially as teachers, I can't even imagine what that would be like. So I would say yes, because I know it's been talked about. We couldn't get to all of our legislation this year, obviously, because of COVID, but I think next year may give us an opportunity to bring that back. So I'll get you the senator that was working on that, because that's a great question.
That's great. And all of the comments in the chat box, please take a moment to look at them, because you have provided wonderful answers. Everybody is applauding you and talking about the great work that you're doing, and we really, really appreciate it. So thank you. We'd also like to invite you to join AAUW. I'm very happy to hear that school board member Megan Kerr, who is on here, she just texted me and said, send me the link. She wants to get more involved. And so, Senator, if you would like to join us too, please consider it. It looks like Abby has all of your district office information too, so that if our members want to take that down and correspond to the senator's office directly with questions. She's so accessible and so welcoming. I know, and she's got a great staff. I know that they'll help and get, answer your questions. So
we're mostly women, by the way.
that's right. That's right. Even at your Sacramento office, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you again. This was incredibly informative. We really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you all. Everyone, have a wonderful weekend, the rest of your Saturday, and we will see you all next month. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.